Hello and welcome back to Predict It Live, only on Old Bull TV, your exclusive source for real-time coverage of the stock market for politics. Well, we're coming off a huge week with viewers who followed our picks on the Pennsylvania primary and the House vote on the January 6th commission absolutely cleaning up. This week, we'll be taking a closer look at how you can capture potentially even bigger gains in the upcoming Senate action on that same bill, and we are going to meet Kevin, the meme candidate that damn near broke PredictIt this weekend. Well, welcome back, political traders. I'm your host, Flip Pideaux. And before we begin, just a reminder that we can load you up with a free $25 in your account to start trading. Just head to predictit.org/promo/oldbull25 for that free deposit match. Please also subscribe to the channel while you're here. And if you have any questions, feel free to connect with us on Twitter at OldBullTV. And of course, by now, you know that all content herein is for informational purposes only and should not be construed as investment or other advice. Presenters may hold and or plan to trade positions in the markets being discussed. So in this episode, we're not yet going to get into additional detail on how to play those two upcoming Senate vote markets on the January 6th commission. But if you follow us on Twitter in the meantime, that's where we're updating our internal whip count and keeping an eye on those market prices. And I'm sure our panel will have more to say about those markets in tomorrow's episode. Today, though, we have to talk about the California governor market, the single most actively traded market on Saturday with about 5,000% of its typical volume. Now, you know GameStop, you know Dogecoin, but PredictIt, meet Kevin. Kevin Paffrath, aka Meet Kevin, is a 29-year-old realtor, investor, YouTube star, and as of a week ago, the 26th candidate for governor in the upcoming recall election. Now, Kevin has put out a thorough and specific platform and is a serious enough candidate that PredictIt added him to this market on Thursday of last week. But what caused all hell to break loose was a YouTube video Kevin published on Saturday when his staff discovered they could bet on their candidate.
What the heck is going on here?
We just found out that on PredictIt.org, you are 8 cents? Is 9 cents. 9 cents. 9 cents right now. You're already, Kevin, second place to win on the betting odds. So I think we're gonna put our money where our mouth is and go all in on betting on Kevin. I'm thinking like $1,000. What'd you do?
I just did $250.
Oh man.
8 cents.
1,100 shares.
You just bought more because everybody else was?
2,000 shares, yeah.
I just bought 1,000, so.
So mid offer. It's confirmed.
I made $115 so far.
How?
My average price is 13 cents, and it's at 14 right now.
all because we bought after the fact.
All right, what happened now? It's like
lost
literally 30 seconds later.
I lost like $150.
Now, this video has been viewed more than 150,000 times by Kevin's 1.6 million YouTube fans, and many have followed suit by opening up their wallets to PredictIt. Now, as for the price action, he actually spiked from 5 or 6 cents up to as high as 20 during the frenzy. This market has been open for a total of 6 weeks. The overall recall election, in other words, who will be the governor at the end of 2021. Kevin's contract, though, has been listed for just 4 days, and his bracket accounts for by far the most volume. And his buyers are not dumping either. Of the roughly 420,000 shares traded in the Kevin bracket, there's about 300,000 in open interest. So his buyers are holding onto these positions. Now, when all this was unfolding on Saturday, we advised on Twitter to short Kevin shares when they're trading around 15 for a few easy pennies. And indeed, it's drifted down back to 10 or 11 cents today, so that was good for a quick small gain. But that still leaves Kevin as the number 2 candidate behind only Gavin Newsom, the incumbent. Way ahead of other celebrity candidate Caitlyn Jenner and the leading traditional Republican candidate, Kevin Faulconer. Aside from the embattled incumbent governor himself, Kevin's actually the only Democrat trading above a penny. Of course, Kevin is not the first candidate to have his PredictIt price boosted by an army of online believers. The Yang Gang famously kept Andrew Yang's presidential prospects inflated on PredictIt throughout the 2020 campaign. Bloomberg was rumored to have a less organic, but likely more professional prediction market tactical squad during his short-lived campaign. And of course, we can't forget the Romney Whale, who reportedly spent millions of dollars, up to $7 million, pumping Mitt's price on now defunct InTrade back in the 2012 cycle. None of those efforts worked, of course, in the sense that none of those candidates actually won. But outside the walls of PredictIt, we have seen some high-profile meme trades actually pull off a kind of wagging of the dog, of the underlying thing being traded. Dogecoin, after all, was supposed to be a parody, a joke about cryptocurrencies. It now has a market cap of over $40 billion, even after losing well over half of its value. And people are actually transacting with it. It's actually becoming used as an increasingly mainstream cryptocurrency. And the Reddit-fueled short squeeze in GameStop, now several months ago, looked like a mass hysteria-induced suicide pact by clueless retail investors. But the then drowning company managed to then issue over $500 million in stock at prices unimaginable a year earlier, and now has a new lease on corporate life, a new incoming CEO, and has returned to the Fortune 500. So can the Meet Kevin army meme its way into a credible electoral threat against Gavin Newsom, or does this continue to be an easy short trade so long as the prices are inflated? Well, here, now that at least the first wave of the frenzy has subsided, our advice would be to proceed with caution, perhaps a lot of caution, if you're thinking about shorting Kevin. So first, remember, the ability to bet against a long shot candidate with a loyal fan base is lopsided in favor of the long. So this is in part because of the $850 position limit that PredictIt has to impose on its traders. So if Kevin's trading around 10 cents, a single backer, buying the long side, buying the yes Kevin bracket, can buy up to 8,500 shares for a total of $850. But since the no side costs 90 cents, you can only buy 944 shares of the no side before you hit that same 850 limit. So every Kevin backer who wants to max out his position can fill the sell orders of a corresponding 9 traders betting against him. And the lower his price goes, the more extreme that fan leverage becomes. So it may be hard to drive this price much lower than its current level, so long as this army of loyalists is out there, keeping his price higher than it might be otherwise. And amidst all the volatility, he hasn't actually dropped below 7 cents since the frenzy began on Saturday. So shorting at 10 may have a limited, at least short-term upside. And again, as mentioned, he spiked as high as 20. So if you're going into a short position, you might have to suffer some short-term, at least paper losses as you await scalping those few remaining pennies. And second, if you are determined to bet against Kevin, there is likely to be another wave, or perhaps several more buying waves. His campaign is, after all, fresh out of the gate, been live for just a week. He's just begun fundraising. He's about to embark on an interview blitz. Media awareness of his candidacy is inevitably going to grow, and with that immediate media awareness and coverage will inevitably come coverage of his PredictIt price, which in turn should further awaken his followers to the importance of that price, of his implied market odds on the media narrative. So our advice to would-be shorts would be to keep a close eye on this market and watch for those price and volume spikes for opportunities to, again, ride the price back down. So even if 10 cents is intrinsically overvalued, getting into the no side at 90 could take up to 6 months to pay off and cause a lot of heartburn in the meantime as you suffer these waves of buying interest. But if even and when he spikes to 15, 20 cents again, assuming it's not accompanied by a shift in fundamentals, like his reporting an absolutely massive fundraising haul or actually putting up a good showing in a poll or two, then I would feel free to scoop up those free pennies on the no side, as that's high enough that the fan leverage ratio does drop a bit, and your fellow traders will in fact help you in pushing the price back down before too long. At least they should. Also, a quick note about Kevin's actual impact on the outcome of the recall election, and specifically on the odds that Newsom gets recalled, whoever he may be replaced with. Whatever you think of Kevin's electoral prospects, the size of his following, the sheer enthusiasm and numbers, again, only folks in California within that fan base that actually get to vote, but the sheer size of his following and their enthusiasm means that they will presumably make some kind of a dent on this race in terms of the actual fundraising haul and the actual ballot counting. To evaluate the directionality, at least of the impact of that dent, you need to keep in mind how California recall elections work. So voters are asked to answer 2 questions. 1, should the governor be recalled? And if so, who should he be replaced by? So it's not as though Gavin Newsom only needs to win a plurality of support. If he did, then the entrance of various popular candidates with their own distinct loyal followings would tend to help the incumbent by fracturing the rest of the field. But that's not the way that it works in California. Newsom needs to win an outright majority of votes on that first question of whether to recall him or not. So generically anti-Newsom people, including those who may be considering shorting him on PredictIt, which currently only costs you 13 cents, should welcome the entrance of the likes of Kevin and hope his campaign really takes off. Looking back at the 2003 recall of Gray Davis, we might expect about 10 million people to cast votes in this recall election. And the pre-Kevin polling suggests that Newsom's on track to survive by only about 750,000 votes and falling. So if that gap continues to narrow, then even if Kevin can't manage to meme his way into the governor's mansion, that size and enthusiasm of this fan base do make it plausible that his campaign could be the tipping point that ousts the current occupant. Now, as always, we want to know what you think and whether and how you are playing this market, whether in the Kevin, the Newsom, or other brackets. Whether you played the frenzy on Saturday, won or lost money, tell us about it. Find us on Twitter at OldBullTV. Again, please remember to subscribe before you go. Get that free $25 at predictit.org/promo/OldBullTV. Happy trading, and we'll see you next time.